Welcome to Patty's Aquatics.
Welcome to Patty's Aquatics. My name is Adam and welcome to my fish room. So today is going to be another video in my series, The Truth About Dirty Tanks. It's a video series where I go a little bit more in depth in the different subjects of dirty tanks. And today is something that, well, I think is something that needs to be talked about. And that's the fact that I believe a large majority of people who set up dirty tanks at one time or another are going to run into nutrient depletion from their soil, and you're going to see the effects within your plants and your tanks. And I think with the influx of dirty tanks that we've seen in the community over the last probably 3 to 5 years, this is something people are already seeing, if not going to see in the near future. And I want to show you guys some of the things that I've been seeing within my own tank. My tank is almost 6 years old and I've been starting to see some depletion. I'll go over all that with you guys. I want to show you some of the signs. I'll show you some of the science behind it, but more importantly, I want to show you how you can replenish it, how you can fix it, how you can get your plants back to that booming growth that was there when you first started these tanks. And I'm going to show you a DIY hack of something that I figured out that I'm going to be using in my tank, and I think it can really help you, so make sure you stick around for that. So that being said, let's turn this camera around and get going. So this is my almost 6-year-old dirty tank. It's the first one I ever set up. It houses my Matano rice fish. I use this today as a backdrop, really, as I discuss on the subject of nutrient depletion within our dirty tanks and how to replenish them. I will zoom in a little bit here and there and show you some of those signs in this tank in a little bit when we get to that part. But first off, really, when we first build a dirty tank, that soil, well, it's bursting with organic matter, with ammonium, nitrogen compounds, minerals, humic substances, all the things that plants thrive on. But, just like a garden bed, over time, plants draw those nutrients out. Organic matter breaks down, microbes use up what they need, but what's eventually left becomes a more inert, exhausted soil. It doesn't mean that your tank is failing. It just means that it's doing its thing. Now, the next part of it really is, I'm sure you might see this online, but I know I've witnessed it numerous times in videos when I bring up this subject, is people come on there and they say, well, my dirty tank has been running for years. It's never lost nutrients. It's not going to lose nutrients. Well, and that can absolutely be true for their system. Now, fish waste, excess food, mold buildup, and decaying leaves, they can replenish nutrients. In some tanks, that constant organic input, it ends up being enough to keep those plants fed indefinitely. But I think here's what many hobbyists kind of overlook. Every dirty tank is different. There are just so many different huge variables that can be between tank to tank. You can't sit there and cookie cut like one tank. You can't say a blanket statement of dirty tanks will never run out of nutrients. It just simply isn't true. So many variables, like how heavily planted your tank is, your light strength, your photo period, whether someone gravel vacs the mulm, your stocking level, your feeding amount, the type and depth of the original soil. What did you cap it with, sand or gravel? Your pH, your KH, your root zone, microbial health. There's so many differences and variables within this. So yes, some tanks basically recycle their own nutrients forever. Others burn through those nutrients faster. It doesn't mean that one person is wrong and the other is right. It just means that your tank is a unique ecosystem. So my approach really is simple. Look at the plants, not the opinions. Your plants are going to tell you if your tank is thriving or not someone's opinion of whether your tank is going to thrive long term no matter what. So now let's take a closer look really at my plants, and I'll show you a little more in depth of some of the things I've been noticing within it in the last few months. Now, if you step back and take a little bit of an overview, it doesn't look that bad, and you're probably thinking to yourself, what is he talking about? But let's deep dive a little bit more into it. Now, the dwarf sads that you see in here, that has thinned considerably over the last few months to a year, but the last few months that I've noticed, it used to be so thick that you couldn't see the back wall. You couldn't see through it. There used to be so much of it, I had to completely always keep pulling it out from the front because it would encase my big crypt there in the middle. Now it doesn't do that at all. You can see light pockets everywhere within there, and it's very thin. Another thing to look at, if you look closer here at some of the leaves, I see yellow pale leaves. That means nutrient depletion. They're not getting as many nutrients as they used to and need to really thrive. My crypts themselves, if you look at this big one, it's not as big and full as it used to be. It's still there, it's still growing, but it's not what it used to be. And these are all signs to me that my soil is just depleted in its nutrients. It doesn't have what it used to be, which is completely normal. Another thing is the algae that I have started up in here. Um, Pull that out some. That's starting to get bad. That's telling me that plants aren't consuming as much because the algae is out competing it. So these are all signs that really that my tank is starting on that level of depletion. And if I don't do something about it, it's just going to continue to get worse. And that's where I feel like a lot of hobbyists will eventually end up, because every tank, for the most part, like I mentioned, is going to find itself into an area where it's going to start to deplete its nutrients, and that's where you got to kind of figure out what you want to do. So there's another part I want to talk about when it comes to dirty tanks and our nutrient levels and stuff, and that's your CEC, or cation exchange capacity. It's probably one of the most important concepts in a dirty tank, in my opinion. A CEC is basically how well your soil can hold on to nutrients and release them back to the plant's roots later. It's like a nutrient sponge or a nutrient magnet. Now, if you think of high CEC materials, obviously it's soil, clay, peat, vermiculite, things like that can hold on to the nutrients. In your low CEC materials, well, they're like your inert substrates, your sand and gravel. Sand has very little CEC, and gravel, I believe, has no CEC at all. So in a dirty tank, the soil acts as the nutrient bank, okay? It stores what the tank naturally produces, the ammonium, the trace minerals, organic breakdown, and then it gives it back to the plants on demand. Whenever the plants need it, they pull from it. But over time, as the organic matter breaks down and that structure changes, the soil CEC drops. It can't hold on the nutrients well anymore. That's actual depletion. So not just nutrient loss, but the loss of the soil's ability to store them. And that's why just fertilizing the water column isn't enough long term. The soil itself needs some rejuvenation. Now, you can think of CEC almost like a pantry, a food pantry, where you're storing food. That's the same as your soil, the nutrients that are in it. And when you need food, you go in and grab it. It's the same for the plants. When they need stuff, they grab it from there. But as you keep grabbing food from there, those nutrients start to get depleted from that pantry. And without nothing else helping put it back in, that's where you're kind of seeing these nutrient depletions within these aquariums, because the pantry is getting empty. The nutrients aren't there no more. So we need to find a way in order to replenish them in those dirty tanks. And that's where we're going to hit next. All the ways that you can replenish a dirty tank. And I have a few options here. Obviously, number one are water column fertilizers. Obviously, they're great for stem plants and floaters and overall plant health, but they really only help those water column feeding plants. They're not going to help your big crypts or your swords and things of that nature that are those really deep root feeders. So that's going to bring you to option two, which are obviously root tabs. Now, not a terrible option. They're more accessible and easy to get at. They're awesome for swords and crypts and lotuses and even valves. They're clean and they're easy, like I said, but they're expensive, and they don't add organic matter back, and they don't restore that soil structure. So that brings us to option three, which is your natural organic mulch accumulation. It's that slow but natural way, letting mulch settle. It builds up nutrients over time, but this can take months to even years to really refill that substrate. And then the next option I've seen, I've never done it, but I've seen it online, where you basically, you're going to dig a hole in your cap here. You're going to add fresh soil, and then you're going to push your cap back over it and add it. Uh, It works great from what I hear, but it is messy and it can disturb your established root systems, and that's just not something I would ever want to try. And then that brings us to option five, the method I've been thinking about, the method I'm going to show you today, that is a fresh way to add fresh soil safely, cleanly, and surgically without tearing apart the tank. So after seeing what was going on in my tank with the depletion of my nutrients and my plants starting to start of struggling, I knew I wanted to find a way to stop it, to help it, to get it back to its former self. And I didn't want to tear the tank down. That was the number one thing. But I really wanted this tank to really keep thriving, because it's my first dirty tank, like I said, and I really love this tank and I wanted to keep it going. So I needed to find a way to do it cleanly and safely and not make a mess and be a cheaper way to do it. And that's where I came up with this idea, what I call our root bombs. Now, I'll show you some B-roll footage of one of these things, but basically all it is organic potting soil and water. I mix it up and I make it into a thicker, like almost peanut butter paste type consistency. And then you'll spread it off into some type of tray, cube tray. You can use an ice cube tray, any type of mold, whatever meets your fancy, basically, that fits the need of your aquarium. What I used is I have a baby brine shrimp that I used to feed, the little cubes. I kept that tray and I used that because I thought that shape would be perfect for my aquarium, where I could target feed throughout my soil to be able to hit my plants. So basically you just press that into that tray and then you're going to freeze it. But keep in mind, what I did is I put it in a Ziploc bag first, because my wife informed me that if I got dirt in her freezer, she would kick my butt. So keep that in mind, people. So you freeze that and then you take it out when it's frozen. Now, why do you freeze it, you ask? That's because now you can simply put it through the tank down into your soil, frozen. It's not going to make a mess in your water column, and you can put it directly into your soil. And I will show you an example of that right now. It's very easy. You can place it wherever you want. You just simply get it down through your cap, get it all the way down to your soil, and voila, you don't make a mess at all. And now you just added a boatload of nutrients that are going to bomb your roots and make your plants explode with new growth, and that's why I call them root bombs. I really think these are going to be a game changer for people with dirty tanks. There has been such an influx of people putting up dirty tanks in the last probably 3 to 5 years. And I really think there are going to be quite a few people that are going to be reaching this level of depletion within their aquariums, that this could actually help. Yes, you can use root tabs, you can use fertilizers, you can do any type of method. But I think this is probably the easiest and cleanest and safest way to be able to do it. And it could rejuvenate your tank and bring it back to life. Yes, like I said before, there are going to be people that are not going to need them. If your stock is low enough and your plants are working out well with that, just having your naturally mold and things work down through your substrate and replenish your plants, that's great. But I really think the large majority of people who set up dirty tanks are going to run into what I'm running into right now. And I think this is a great way to help solve that. Now, what are some of the benefits of these frozen root bombs? Well, like I mentioned before, they can restore that CEC, that cation exchange capacity. You're literally adding fresh soil with high nutrients holding capacity back really into that depleted substrate. And they also reintroduce organic matter, and that wakes up that root zone bacteria, boosts that natural nutrient cycling. Yeah, you can target heavy root feeders like your crypts and your swords, and there's no tank teardown. You don't have to destroy your scape or anything to fix your soil. It's as easy as putting them down through the substrate itself. And like I said, there's no huge mess. That frozen soil, it goes in clean. It doesn't make a mess at all. And the biggest, hugest part about it is cost effective. It's pennies compared to root tabs. A bag of this organic potting soil is what, maybe $3 to $5 at one of your local hardware stores. And that bag could probably last, well, not probably, it would last you years upon years of being able to set up your tank and continue to replenish it. And it's customizable. You can really tailor it really to whatever you want, whatever type of soil you want. If you want to add any type of additives to it, or whatever the case may be, it is customizable to whatever you want to do. And a big thing, it's also fish safe, because you're using natural soil and you're not using anything harsh chemical wise in it. It's completely natural. Now, as far as placement and how often you need to do it, that's where I'm going to try to figure it out. It's really going to depend, I think, on your tank itself, like how many plants you have, types of plants you have, and things of that nature. For me, I'm going to say this. I'm going to try to place them as a grid throughout my tank. Probably like every 4 or 5 inches apart, I'm going to place one, just so I can try to get all of this really kick-started again. And if I may put a few extra around my crypts to kind of help them a little bit more. And then I'm going to wait a few weeks, probably at least a good month or two, and I'm going to sit back and kind of see what happens. And then if I need to add more, I will, and then kind of go from there, because always just remember that your plants will tell the story. The plants are going to tell you if they need more, if they don't. Once you get it jump started, you should be good for a while, and then you kind of, like, again, you look at your plants and it's going to tell you if you need it or not. And a lot of it's also going to depend on like what size cube you make. For me, like I said, mine are smaller because it's going to be easier, more accessible for me to get into areas with this dorsage I have everywhere. But if you use a bigger natural like ice cube size, you may not need to use it as often. And say you have a tank where you have all your plants on one side and nothing on the other, well, it doesn't really pay to be sticking it all in areas where there are no plants. You really want to target your plants and their root systems, because that's what you want to explode with nutrients. So that's what I'm thinking with that anyway. But also for storage, you can make them ahead of time. The nutrients, you're not going to lose nutrients when they freeze. They actually preserve the nutrients being frozen. So they should last at least a year, if not longer, within a freezer if you make them ahead of time. This is another cool thing about it. So that's the full breakdown. Dirty tanks are amazing. They're long-lasting systems, but eventually the soil just gets tired, and it's totally okay. It's not a failure. It's natural. The good news, you don't need to tear your tanks down. There's ways to replenish that soil and keep your plants thriving. Whether it's water column ferts or root tabs or these root bombs I just showed you. Like I said, with the influx of dirty tanks over the last 3 to 5 years, I really think people are going to be seeing this depletion within their dirty tanks a lot more. Now, yes, like I mentioned, there's going to be a percentage of people that are not going to have to do anything with their tanks. They're going to be able to thrive the way they are, but I really feel it's going to be a much greater percentage of people that are seeing what I'm seeing within my tank and the start of depletion. And that's where these root bombs or these different type of things are there to be able to help replenish them. Now, I'm sure I'm not the first person to think about this with these frozen dirt cubes. It's just an idea that popped into my head, and I wanted to share with you guys because I think I'm just really excited about it, because I think I can really jumpstart my tank, and I think it can jumpstart yours. So take it and put it into your tank and give it a try. If you're seeing the same things I'm seeing, I think it'd be a great help to our ecosystems to be able to keep these tanks running for many, many years more to come. So if you like the video, hit that subscribe button. It'd be greatly appreciated. I will be giving updates on this project and this tank in the coming months and show you what's going on and show you just exactly how well these root bombs are working. Just to drop a bomb of nutrients onto your roots so they can explode new growth. That's what it's all about, isn't it? So hit that subscribe button, like I said, and I hope to see you again next time here at Patty's Aquatics.
Thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time here at Patty's Aquatics.